So listen, I'm going to the Olive Garden to meet my friends. Will you be okay? Before heading out, I wanted to make sure my children would be fine on their own for the day, so I asked my 15-year-old son who was busy online gaming. When he didn't give me any response, I nudged him a little to gain his attention, and succeeded. "Mom, I'm in a match right now, can't talk." He looked at me in annoyance, removed his headphones, and said in an irritated voice, "Fine, I was just trying to tell you that I'm going out." I crossed my arms and informed him as I had now gained access to his attention. "Yep, sure, go ahead," he replied and turned back to play his game, but he was half focused on the game and half on me. "Now don't keep playing games all day, young man. Food is in the fridge. Make sure to eat it." I nudged him once again to remind him of his meal. "Okay, Mom, I will. Now go. Bye." He put them back after saying that. I'm telling you, kids these days, they have no regard to the surroundings and elders. I blame gaming and the internet. The internet is the source of all evil, and I'd been saying this to my son for years now, but the idiot never listens to me. Furthermore, I already had my talk with Sophie, who is the eldest, and rather easiest to get to listen than Jack, who was always in front of a screen, whether it was a PC or mobile game. After instructing her about eating, where the emergency numbers were, and if she needed anything she could call me immediately, I finally headed to meet my friends. So the Olive Garden was a place for housewives like me to relax and have a little chit-chat with one another. They had everything: a pool, spa, a bar for those who needed a drink, golf course, and archery for the athletic ladies, and a little private area for a little ladies' picnic for those who wanted to have a longer conversation. Those gossiping types. Me and a few other women around the neighborhood used to meet every Tuesday to converse about the ups and downs of their lives and to complain about their children's behavior. In exchange, we used to give each other pieces of advice on where we should make corrections to solve whatever problem we were facing at the moment. It was kind of a therapy for women such as me, and we enjoyed our little private sessions. I drove to the garden, and as I walked inside the lobby, I found others waiting for me. A smile formed on my lips as I waved at them. Meeting good friends is rare, and after meeting these three, I kept thinking the same as over time, the four of us had become best friends. We decided to have a spa session today, since such an opportunity for us was as rare as hen's teeth, as we had planned to spend a few hours here after a long time. While enjoying the spa, Susan started telling me how she was worried about her 11-year-old son, Milo, saying he was always playing this online game PUBG, and often talked about how he wished he could kill people in real life just like the game. He kept talking about how cool it was that he could use weapons and whatnot in the game, and she was worried that the game was taking a toll on him psychologically. The other two also shared their concerns over their son's obsession with the online game, saying they are behaving like brats and keep skipping their meals because of PUBG. Come on girls, they're kids, and it's just a game. What harm can it do? My son also plays games right after coming home from school, but I never let him skip his meals, and nor does it affect his mental health. Don't worry, we have all been through this as a kid. Remember how we used to spend all our savings in the arcade? It's just a phase, and it'll pass. I tried to assure them, but deep down, I was also worried about my son and his gaming habits. After spending a good 3 hours with them, we decided to head home together since we all lived around the block. When I got back, I found Sophie sitting in the living room couch watching TV, and Jack was probably in his room playing games. I went directly to the kitchen and opened the fridge, only to find the mashed potatoes, vegetable salad, and tortillas still untouched. "Sophie, did you guys not eat yet?" I raised my voice in anger because I had spent 2 hours making them. "I didn't feel like eating potatoes, Mom, so I made myself a sandwich, and as proof, you can check the bread." Not sure about Jack though, I didn't see him come out of his room yet. As she told me, I stomped upstairs to my dear son's room, and just as I expected, I found his head still buried in that damn PC playing that game. "Tell me, how long are you going to keep this up?" As I removed his headphones, he looked at me startled. He was about to say something in anger, but as he noticed my mood, his expression changed. "Did you not leave for the Olive Garden yet?" The moment he said those words, I could tell by his expression that he had sensed my anger rising. "It's past 6 p.m. Turn that damn thing off right now. Enough gaming for today. I want you downstairs in 10 minutes if you don't want to lose your access to the computer." I stormed out after saying that. One thing about my children is that they never spoke out of turn when I was angry and obeyed my commands, since they knew I spoiled them when needed as well. And just as expected, he did come down within the given time. I served him food which he silently ate without any argument or question, nor did I ask any. Their father returned from work around 9:30 p.m., and just as usual, the dinner was served right after that. They all had a little dinner talk when Aiden asked them about school and homework, etc. Sophie and Jack had a little sibling teasing and quarreling as they were in charge of doing the dishes while I threw a warm bath for their father. As per our daily routine, we all went to bed on time to sleep. The next morning, I woke up early as usual to prepare breakfast for everyone before waking them up to get ready. Once done prepping breakfast, I went to wake Aiden up, whom I found already awake and in the bathroom getting ready for the office. So I proceeded to Jack's room since he was the one who used to sleep till late. As I was waking him up, I heard the doorbell, so I went to open the door. And when I did, I found 2 cops at our door. "Good morning. How can I help you?" I asked. "We are here to ask a few questions regarding Susan White. I heard you're friends with her." I looked at them in confusion as they asked, so I closed the door and walked outside to talk more comfortably. "Yes, we meet at the Olive Garden every Tuesday. Is she in some kind of trouble? If she is, I assure you she's a very kind young lady." I didn't know what she did, but I wanted to do my part as her friend. "Ma'am, unfortunately, I have bad news for you. She, including her entire family, was found dead this morning. Only her son Milo was found alive. We believe it's a murder, but we haven't found the murder weapon yet." As I heard this, the color on my face washed out. What were they talking about? The entire family was murdered, but she was just fine the other day. The terrifying news of Susan's death came as a shocker to me, as I believed others must have been in the same state as me after hearing this. "You mentioned meeting at the Olive Garden. Did she come by yesterday as well?" one of the officers asked. "Yes, she did, and we had quite the conversation with her," I told them. The news of her death was still hard to swallow, but I was trying to keep my composure. "Did she seem troubled by any chance? Was there any mention of someone threatening her or her family?" I couldn't remember her even mentioning any sort of trouble, so I answered what I knew to this question. "No, she seemed fine. The only trouble she shared was about her concern over Milo's psychological health." "Milo's psychological health?" The other officer, who had been writing something on a notepad, suddenly lifted his head and asked with a weird expression. "Yes, her son was obsessed over an online game, and she mentioned how his behaviors were changing due to that. I suggested it was just a game and he'll get over it with time," I told them honestly. "Who else heard this conversation?" he asked again. Penelope and Hazel were there too, as they also shared similar concerns about their sons. After listening to this, the officer headed over to Penelope's house, and the other officer thanked me for my time and followed him. I couldn't understand what was going on, and who would do something so terrible to such a sweet family. When I entered the house, everyone seemed to be awake. By the looks of it, they heard the conversation I just had with the officers. They didn't mention a word and simply finished their breakfast, and since Aiden's lunch was already packed, he grabbed it, kissed me, and headed to his work. The other 2 also got ready obediently and headed for school on their own. After everyone was gone, I decided to meet up with the other 2 and ask what was going on. But while talking, it turned out none of us had any idea what went overnight for such a tragedy to befall. We were worried about young Milo, but as he was sent to his aunt's house, we couldn't do anything to provide a helping hand. Losing a neighbor is the worst feeling, but losing an entire neighboring family was on another level. As Susan's neighbors and friends, we held a ceremony at church for them and cried our hearts out while the 3 of us were alone. Our lives didn't stop, and as we were moving on with heavy hearts, one day I saw one of the news channels showing how an 11-year-old killed his entire family under the influence of PUBG. The moment they revealed the names of the victims and the boy, my entire body froze in shock and my face went pale. After a few minutes, I turned around. I saw Jack standing there with the same expression as me. He stopped playing games after that, and I stopped nagging him. But whenever I think about Susan, I'm filled with a sense of guilt. I shouldn't have said that it was just a game. Instead, I should have suggested immediate therapy for the boy. Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. It was about when I was returning from my grandmother's place in Montana to catch my flight back home. I had taken a cab, and since it was an hour's ride to the airport, I decided to play a game of PUBG Mobile. So I took out my phone, connect my headphones, and started playing. I teamed up with 3 random players, and we decided to play a classic game on the map of Erangel. After the timer went off, we noticed the circle was around Lipovka and Mansion, covering the area of Novorepnoye. So we figured it would be closing around Milta Power, and decided to hide near the bridge that crossed a farm in Milta to kill other passing players. We couldn't land as planned, since 2 of the players went immediately to loot the surrounding area of the farm. So I, along with another player, went to loot houses as well. I found an M416 almost immediately, and around 60 5.56mm ammo. There was another shotgun and a P92 pistol. After going through a few more houses, I found a med kit, a few bandages, 2 energy drinks, and a syringe. As we were doing that, I noticed a few footsteps on the map, so all of us rushed immediately toward our enemies and started killing them one by one. I got 2 kills, and the rest of them were killed by other players. After getting all the supplies we needed, we proceeded with our plan the moment the circle started closing. We hid near the bridge and started killing the players who were trying to cross it. Within a few minutes, I received 7 kills. But since we couldn't stay there any longer as the blue zone approached, we took a car and headed toward prison. We got a few good kills around the border of prison and Milta Power, and just as expected, the circle did close between Milta and Milta Power. In the end, our team came second since there was another team who was out to kill. I had achieved 14 kills and MVP in our team. The team I was playing with was pretty good. That was the very reason I got too invested in the game and didn't realize how much time went by on the ride. As we were moving forward in the arena in the next game, my teammates were roasting other players while killing them. It was fun, even though I had my mic turned off. While playing my 4th game, I got distracted by the car moving over a speed breaker, almost making me drop the phone, which made me realize I was still inside the cab. I looked outside to see we were heading toward a narrow road with bends and turns, which was confusing because it was different from what the cab driver took the other day when I arrived here. So to clear my suspicions, I asked the driver where we were headed, but surprisingly, he didn't give me any response. I tried asking for a few more times and he just stayed silent. It seemed that it had been a while since the hour passed, and there was no way this guy was driving toward the airport. I closed my phone and put it back in my pocket, as there was no way I would be able to focus on the game any longer. The only question in my mind was at the time, where's he taking me, and why? My voice was stuck in my throat as I just stood there frozen, waiting for whatever destination we were about to arrive, so that I could run off at the first chance I get. I did try to open the door, but he was already clever enough to lock all of them, making it impossible to open without his permission. 15 more minutes passed, and finally he stopped the car in a remote area near a river. By the looks of it, there was no one around. At least that's what I thought, until 2 huge-looking me came and dragged me out of the car. If it was some movie, I would have heroically taken them down and escaped this terrifying situation. But this was no movie, and I was not a male lead in this situation. So when I tried to run, I was beaten brutally in the gut. None of them said a word while reshaping my face with their punches and kicks, nor did they hear any of my pleas. It almost made me believe that these people were mute and deaf, and of course, without an ounce of humanity as that matter. The driver just stood there keeping watch while the 2 goons beat me to the point where I started to lose consciousness. Trust me, I knew who might have been behind this, but I never expected them to go this far as to try and murder me. My hands and legs were broken to the point where I kept passing out as they continuously thrashed me. As they were done using their bodies to pummel me mercilessly, one of them took out a knife and stabbed my lower abdomen. But as he was pulling it out, it just got stuck there, and he wasn't able to do that. My senses were drifting away when I felt them dragging my body to the river and throwing me in it. And along with the water entering my system, everything went dark. I was sure that I was going to die at this point, But unfortunately, my suffering wasn't meant to end there, and I was woken up at a hospital. My life would have come to an end if it wasn't for a local fisherman to witness everything and rescue me after waiting patiently for my attackers to leave. After being in a state of coma for almost 3 months, I was awakened miraculously as my wounds healed. I use the word miracle because I heard doctors didn't believe I would be able to make it, and they thought I would die. Grandma insisted on letting me live on life support, and I guess I should thank her for my sound recovery. Now, about the part where I was almost murdered, I believe it was my Uncle Sam's doing, since my sole reason for that visit was because Grandma summoned me to inform me that she had put my name as an heir on the will. Since Uncle Sam was my father's only brother, and we all knew the fact that he had been eyeing Grandma's properties for years, he opposed it strongly. But since I was the only offspring of the family, my name was put there regardless of what others said. The very next day they attempted to kill me, so it was pretty clear to me who would have been behind it. I guess Grandma guessed the same while I was in a vegetative state, and with that fisherman being the witness, she gave Uncle's name as a possible suspect to the police. The cab driver was found murdered a few days after I was admitted to the hospital, and the 2 men were caught while trying to flee. But both of them refused to open their mouths against who was behind the murder. As those 2 didn't testify against Uncle, he was removed from the suspect list due to lack of evidence, but Grandma did add a precautionary measure to the will. The new clause that had been added was, upon her death, the properties would be transferred immediately to me. But in case something were to happen to me, then in that case, it will belong to the charity and will go to the state's orphanage. I did not want to become a part of this family feud, but now that I have, and in the hospital at that, I was not going to let this slide. The day I recover and get out of this hospital, I will make sure to dig up every dirt on Uncle and send him where he belongs. The incident I'm about to tell you still haunts me to this day. It happened to me when I was still in high school. A new game was in the craze at the time, Dragon Age Inquisition. It was a 4-player life simulation game. In that game, the player had to take on the role of one of the 4 Inquisition. They were dispatched to eliminate either a cohort of Venatori, a battalion of Red Templars, a swarm of Darkspawn, a pack of demons, or a Katam and Kanari that had taken control of an area. Every location had 5 zones, and once the players completed the first 4 zones, the agents had to face enemies led by the enemy commander, either Calpurnia, Samson, or Emissary Alpha, an Envy Demon, or Sereth, depending on which faction they are fighting. Once the final wave of enemies was killed, the match ends victoriously. I was obsessed with that game, and often used to go to the nearby gaming cafe to play it. I used to play this game for hours, and after I was finished playing, I used to open my Facebook account and post my progress of it. I often played with different players, but there was one guy with the name of Hunter Z309 whom I played most of my games with. We even used to talk using Dialogue Wheel. One day after the game, I logged into Facebook and uploaded my progress post. After that, I clicked the messages of others and went to check notifications. Someone had tagged me in a post, and the person who tagged me was unknown to me. So I checked the post, and there was a picture of me sitting in the cafe playing Dragon Age. The picture was taken 2 days ago. I recognized the outfit from that day. I looked around. Everyone was busy on their own. Surprisingly, he was in my friends list, and I had no idea when I added him. I did not think much of it at the time, but slowly it started to increase. I was tagged in more pictures of me. I had no idea who it was and when did he take my picture. I messaged him, saying it's rude to take pictures of others and upload it without permission. He instantly replied, "I'm sorry, I'll take it down." And after that, all the posts with my pictures were deleted from his account. I was relieved, but I was still not sure about him taking my pictures again. I messaged him saying not to do this anymore, but I should have been a little more specific about it. The next day, when after playing game, I checked my Facebook. The pictures were sent into my inbox and they were from the same day. I looked around and shouted, "Who is it?" Everyone started looking at me with confusion, so I couldn't recognize who it was. I texted him to stop it, but there was no reply. The pictures kept increasing day by day, so I complained about it to the cafe owner. But even after that, it did not stop, and along with the pictures of me being in the cafe, other pictures that were downloaded from my Facebook and were edited in nude models' bodies started to come. I was extremely worried about it and had no idea what to do. I thought of telling my parents about it, but since I used to come here by the excuse of going to the library, I was really scared, so I stopped going to the cafe. But it still did not stop. He started sending threat messages to me, along with the pictures of new models with my face edited on it. One day, he sent me a picture of a nude model in a weird pose and asked me to send him my picture in that pose. I immediately blocked him and deactivated my Facebook account. I locked myself inside my room and stopped going anywhere. My parents started to worry about me and started to ask questions. I had no courage to tell them about it after lying to them so much. I was depressed. After a few days, one of my friends sent me a picture that was going viral and told me that it was my picture. I checked, and it was the same picture with that nude model in that pose, but with my face edited to it. I immediately told her about everything. She said I should tell my parents about it before they find such pictures from somewhere else and report this. I stomped back and forth in my room, arguing subconsciously to myself if I should tell them or not. What if they start to yell? What if they don't even talk to me anymore? What if they kick me out of the house? And what if they don't want me anymore? All what-if questions were roaming around in my mind. Somehow, I managed to gather enough courage to tell them about it and come clean. When we were all having dinner, I approached them, saying, "I need to tell you guys something." Their focus went toward me, and I started to tell them everything. I told them about how I used to go play games and not library and how I ended up with a cyber stalker. I thought that they would be disappointed in me, but that wasn't the case. They looked at me with a concerned look, and my mother spoke. "We know, honey, about you going to the cafe. We let you be because we know you study hard." My parents told me not to worry and they will take care of it. They went there and reported it to the cyber police department. The investigation started and they tracked the source of the post and messages. It turned out to be the cafe owner's son, and he was also the one who used to play with me online. All the posts that were uploaded by him, along with the viral ones, were completely taken down from the internet. I was relieved. But the next day when I went to school, I felt like everyone was staring at me and gossiping about me. Everyone was talking about what happened to me. My friends started to avoid me. But still, somehow I managed to finish my school and started preparing for college. Even to this day, sometimes people recognize me from the viral picture and ask me about it. It has become a habit of mine to ignore such people.
Before this, I always thought I should be kind and friendly to others, but nowadays I'm a lot less trusting. In this particular case, there was a boy named Larry from my geometry class sophomore year. I don't mean to brag, but I had some of the highest grades in that class, and I always finished my assignments early. Larry, however, had lots of difficulty understanding what was going on. The teacher one day asked me to help explain it to him, since I was already finished with my own work. I tried to explain everything to him slowly and step by step. I would not move on until I was sure he understood. In 3 days, there was a big test coming up, and on the day of the test I wished him good luck. I told him to do his best. He was pretty quiet and was never around a big group of people, but he seemed like a very nice person. A few days after we do our tests, we get them back. After class, Larry walked over to me smiling and said he'd gotten a B. "Congratulations," I said. I was honestly happy for him. "Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you," he said to me very awkwardly, but it felt so good that I was able to help somebody. I was starting to think to myself that maybe I should tutor more people. Maybe I had a knack for this kind of thing. That night, Larry sent me a friend request on Facebook. I didn't think anything unusual of it, and I accepted it. And within 5 minutes, I got a message from Larry saying, "Hi, I just wanted to thank you again. You're a lot better than the teacher at explaining these things. If it weren't for you, I would have failed." "No problem," I told him. "If you're ever in need of help with anything, just feel free to ask." We chatted a bit more over the next couple of weeks about geometry and school in general. It wasn't long until he sent me a message saying, "You seem like a pretty cool, nice guy. I was wondering, would you like to go out on a date with me?" I was shocked. I really didn't see this coming, but I tried my best to be polite and as nice as I could. My older brother, who'd already graduated years ago, is gay, so I didn't have any sort of prejudice. I just didn't swing that way. "Sorry, Larry, but I'm not gay," I told him. "I'd be glad to still be friends, though. You're a really nice guy," I said. He replied with just, "Okay," and he didn't send any further messages. He didn't look in my direction at school either after that, and I was starting to worry that I'd lost a friend. A few days came and went. One day I got home to see a few comments Larry had left on my Facebook pictures. They said really mean things. Things like, "What an ugly picture," and "That face could make children cry." My family and a couple of friends responded telling him how his comments were rude and unnecessary, and I deleted them all rather than blocking him right away like I should have, and I sent him another message. "Hey," I said, I'm sorry I hurt you by saying we can't date, but that doesn't mean you should be bullying me like that. I've done nothing wrong to you, and I don't want to have to block you." About an hour later, he sent me a message that had me shaking and in tears. I can't remember all of the vile things it said, but I'll type up what I remember. It said something to the effect of, "As if I'd still want to date your ugly self anyway. Your biological parents didn't want you, so why would anyone else? You're a worthless piece of trash, and you should probably just die. In fact, you shouldn't have been born at all. I'd slit your throat myself, but you aren't worth the prison time. You should kill yourself instead. Make this world a better place and just die already. And if you don't, I might just change my mind and do it myself." I walked over to my mother and handed her the phone. She saw the cruel words, she saw those death threats, and she saw how upset I was that someone would say such things to me, especially after I did nothing to them but be nice. I mentioned in passing during one of our conversations that I was adopted, and he even used that against me. My mom then called the sheriff and told him what was going on. Larry switched schools, and I got a restraining order against him. I left social media afterwards, and I haven't gone back online just yet. Nowadays, I don't go out of my way to be kind to people, and I distance myself from them. I don't harbor any ill feelings against Larry, and I hope that he got the help he desperately needs. Not a day goes by that I don't hope that he was exaggerating about those death threats, because if he was mad for me doing nothing wrong to him, imagine how mad he was now that I got him kicked out of his school. Larry, I really don't want to see you again.